Hello everybody, it's Fufu here, and today I've got another video considering the upcoming Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee games. We've really not got long to wait now, so I thought it was about time to do another video on these, and it's going to be all about egg moves, or the lack of them. This is a very speculative video, so keep that in mind while going into it. If you like this kind of content, please consider leaving a like on this video because it helps me determine what you guys want to see on this channel, but if not, that's fine too. So today I'll talk about what we know about egg moves going into these games, and then I will talk about how that might impact the Pokemon. So what do we know about egg moves? Well, we know that there won't be egg hatching or breeding mechanics in this game. That's been confirmed in interviews, and Junichi Masuda even went as far as to say he does not want fans of the series to think that Pokemon is just hatching eggs, which is really interesting. So we're definitely moving away from that conventional breeding mechanic, and that really puts into doubt whether egg moves will feature in these games at all. Now, why I don't say that it means they won't be in the games categorically is because we have seen the moves implemented in the current series games in different ways. For example, in Generation 6, when you Dex Nav for Pokemon, you could find Pokemon in the wild with egg moves. So there is a possibility that in Pokemon Let's Go Eevee and Pikachu, we will still see Pokemon getting access to their currently named egg moves in different ways, though they may no longer be called egg moves because eggs don't exist in these games. So we'll see about that, but what we do know for sure now is that eggs won't be in the games. Therefore, until we hear about new mechanics in these games, we may well have to assume that egg moves won't be there. So how will that affect the Pokemon in these games, and which Pokemon will lose the most from not having their egg moves? So I've done quite a bit of research into this, and I will go through some of the most important ones today. This is by no means an exhaustive list, and if you think that I've missed any important changes, please let me know in the comment section. I'm going to talk about offensive Pokemon, then defensive Pokemon, and then finally just some utility things, or Pokemon that use moves that aren't offensive or defensive, basically. So first off, offensive Pokemon. A big one to note is that Charizard won't get access to Dragon Dance if it does not have egg moves, and that is huge for Mega Charizard X, which loves to Dragon Dance up and hit really hard with its physical moves. Especially in Pokemon Let's Go Eevee and Pikachu, when Choice Scarf as an item does not exist, nothing will outspeed Charizard X after a Dragon Dance. So it will be so potent in these games if it does get access to that move, but it looks like that's doubtful right now because it is an egg move. It's also important to say that Charizard wouldn't have Dragon Pulse because that is an egg move, but we know that it already gets access to that because we've seen it in the trailers, and that could well be because Dragon Pulse is also a tutor move. So we don't know anything about tutors, and it could well be that tutors exist in these games, and that is how Charizard knew Dragon Pulse. Alternatively, we already know that learn sets have changed in these games. For example, Pikachu can now learn Double Kick, which it couldn't before. So these egg moves may well be incorporated into their learn sets. But that's one to note, that I won't really be talking about tutor moves or egg moves that can be learned in other ways like TMs or tutor moves. The next one I wanted to mention here is Pinsir. It won't get Quick Attack if it doesn't get egg moves, which is really important for Mega Pinsir. With that Aerolate ability, Quick Attack is very nice priority. Obviously, without abilities, Mega Pinsir won't have Aerolate Quick Attack anyway, so that might not be a big change after all, but it's one to note that Pinsir looks to be functioning very differently in these games, and I'm very interested to see how it will be implemented. And the last one I wanted to mention in this first category of just important Pokemon to mention is Dragonite, which won't get Extreme Speed by egg move, although it's always been a bit weird how Dragonite gets Extreme Speed, and usually you need a Dragonite that already knows Extreme Speed to be able to breed to give a Dratini that knows Extreme Speed. So that's a bit strange. So we may well see Extreme Speed on Dragonite still. Big question mark there. The next ones, these are kind of overlooked Pokemon that will be missing some of their offensive moves. So Machamp is heavily affected because it won't have its very good move Close Combat. It really likes Close Combat, and especially when it won't have its No Guard ability to be able to use Dynamic Punch and Cross Chop. Close Combat is certainly its best fighting move, and it wouldn't have that. And it also wouldn't have Heavy Slam to hit the Fairy type, so those two are quite big changes. There are other ones like Knock Off and Elemental Punches, but again, it could well learn those through tutor moves, so that's not as big a deal, but Close Combat and Heavy Slam would be huge for Machamp. Cloyster won't have Icicle Spear. Without its skill link ability, that might not be so huge, but it's still a very nice ice move for it, and so Cloyster may well miss that. And finally, Dodrio won't have Brave Bird, a very strong stab flying type move. It will have Drill Peck, but it's not as much of a nuke. And finally, some setup Pokemon. So again, these might be a bit overlooked, but they're very good in the low tiers, and they could well be very good in Pokemon Let's Go Eevee and Pikachu. We've got Kingler that won't have Agility. Kingler's got a very high attack stat, and Agility means that it outspeeds pretty much everything, so that will be missed. And Mr. Mime and Jinx won't get Nasty Plot. These two are big threats in low tiers because they can boost their special attacks so quickly, but they won't have that, so that's a big shame for those two because it really limits their options. In terms of defensive Pokemon, a big one to be affected is Chansey. It won't get Heal Bell, so it won't be able to perform a Cleric role as well. And also it won't get Seismic Toss, which means that it will be super passive. It won't have any damage output at all. It would have to rely on things like Toxic to be able to threaten opponents. And if you have Taunt or Substitute, that just doesn't matter. Chansey is a free setup opportunity. So that's going to be a big change for Chansey, and it will be much harder to use. We've then got two Pokemon that will miss out on the move Wish. Clefable will miss that, but it does have Moonlight to heal itself up. It just means that it won't be a Cleric to be able to heal up the rest of your team. And then Eevee won't get Wish, which means that Jolteon, Flareon and Vaporeon won't, and that will definitely affect Vaporeon, the bulkiest of the three. It doesn't have any other recovery, and it won't be able to perform that Cleric role. So Vaporeon will be very different if it doesn't get Wish. There are a couple more that don't get some healing. Arcanine won't have Morning Sun. Without its Intimidate ability, it probably will default to being more of an offensive Pokemon anyway, but Morning Sun would definitely help out there. And Vileplume won't have Strength Sap, which is very, very potent healing, but it still has Moonlight and Synthesis, so that might not be so much of a bother. I then want to talk about two defensive Pokemon that will lack offensive moves because it really helps them out putting pressure on the opponent. So first off, Snorlax, very, very bulky, and this won't have Curse, which allows it to boost up its attack, so it can be an amazing wall, tank everything, and then also threaten the opponent. So that's a bit of a shame for Snorlax. And then we've got Alola Muck, which won't have Pursuit, and I actually think this will be huge. I really hope that Alola Muck does still have Pursuit, just because we've got some extremely powerful and extremely scary Psychic and Ghost types that Alola Muck will be able to switch in on very easily and be able to stop in their tracks. Namely, Mega Alakazam and Mega Gengar are going to be insane and almost unstoppable, aside from this one Pokemon. Not really anything else can deal with them as well as Alola Muck. But if it doesn't get Pursuit, you won't have that surefire way of removing them. So I actually think that that one's one of the biggest ones that we would lack if it doesn't come in an egg move. Finally, just some other utility moves. So we've got Omastar that won't have access to Spikes and Toxic Spikes. It really likes being a hazard stacker currently because it does get Stealth Rock as well. Without those, it probably will default to more of an offensive move because it does have Shell Smash, which will still be very powerful. A lot of Pokemon won't get Rapid Spin. You've got Tentacruel, Cloyster, Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee, and also Kabutops, all of which won't have Rapid Spin, so that could well affect how hazards are used in battle. Still, things may well get defogged by Tutor Move, and there are other Rapid Spinners like Sandslash and Blastoise that will still be around, but it could well mean that hazards are even more useful in this kind of battles. And finally, Gengar won't have things like Perish Song and Disable. It can't perform annoyance sets like Substitute and Disable, or maybe even try to Perish Song trap with Mean Look. But I don't think that it will be performing that role much anyway because Mega Gengar is such a huge threat with its amazing speed and insane special attack stats. So I think it will be more offensive anyway, so we probably won't miss that too much. But those are some general flavors just to get you thinking about how lacking egg moves could really change things up. I think it's going to be a huge change. It's going to be so interesting to see what happens with these changes. I personally think that egg moves will be implemented in a different way in these games, and so the changes that I've talked about there may well not come to fruition. We may just see that Pokemon have much wider learn sets. They learn so many different moves so you can really customize them up, and it's easier for you to get those battle ready Pokemon, which would be nice for everyone, I think. That's going to be all for today. Please get involved in the discussion in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. I've been Foofoo, you've been awesome, and hopefully see you next time. Goodbye.